Hello and welcome to the Holy Rivals Show. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. Hopefully, in some moment, we'll have the Wild Ute joining us tonight. But I've got one of our key contributors, Immaculate View, is with me tonight. How you doing, Immaculate?
Good. Good evening. Quite a busy day so far, and hopefully we have ourselves a good little talk about it tonight.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a bunch of loaded things that we need to talk about, and I think that there's people that are interested that maybe haven't been paying attention before. So let's just get some business done first. Everybody, please subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. If this is your first time, please leave us a comment or a question, suggestion. We read all those. Also, I want to ask everybody to follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handles are on the screen. And then make sure you turn on notifications. Subscribe to this channel, and then turn on your notifications both on Twitter and on YouTube. That way, you know whenever we do a post on Twitter, you'll know what we're talking about. And if you know or turn on notifications for YouTube, you're going to know what's going on there too. We do shows anywhere from 3 to 5 a week. And we invite you to be part of the community. We've been going since almost 5 months now, and we got a really good family here, and we really appreciate everybody who's followed us for a while. And we'll have to see where we go next several months. Couple things to start off with. First, I'm gonna get my gum on the other side of my mouth. I want to just one more time say I really feel in my heart sad for Greg Flugar and the loss of his father. I understand how important his family is to him. And I'm sure everybody by now, everybody's heard that his father passed away, but he certainly, I don't think, would turn down condolences. Send him a brief message on YouTube or on Twitter and let him know that you're caring and thinking about him. He's been one of my advocates. He was my very first mentor in this whole thing, and I really, really appreciate all the support he's given us on our show, and pretty much everything we do. So again, hats off to you, Greg, and we hope that like I said, this current time you and your family are doing well. Immaculate, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of having a nice little chat with him again. It's been a little while, and hopefully he's taking things in stride. I know that's a big loss for him. He had his father with him, living with him, and he was taking care of him. I do believe I saw something from him that his next show is scheduled for Friday.
Oh,
so
good.
Anyone listening, be sure kind of get in there and show your support. And it'll be good to see him back on again and running.
We appreciate you, Greg. And if you need anything, please let us know and reach out. Let's start with the people who are in the house first. Kaufman, he's the first one to say hi all. He's one of our members. And then we've got, let's see here, scroll down. David Hackett and Ag Biochemist. David Hackett is one of our members. He says, hi, guys. Jeff Fuller's in the house.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Fuller? Good to see you. If we have time later, well, if you want to, we could bring you on the show. We got a lot of stuff to get through tonight, so I'm not sure when it's going to happen. We'll probably go about 90 to 120 minutes. So if you want to stick around, if it's that important to you, we'd love to have you on the panel. I'm just not sure when we might get to that. Greg Kirsch is in the house. He says, BYU look great. Love the new defense, attacking instead of the bend but not break. I'm so tired of the drop 8, rush 3, and every BYU fan agrees with me. David Hackett again says, I keep missing live shows, have to watch replays. I'm sorry, David. I appreciate you being a loyal member, being a subscriber, and giving us that little extra support to keep our show going. I really, really appreciate you, and I don't want you to think that I ever take you for granted. A-Mac is in the house. He says, howdy, y'all. Another comment from Craig Kirsch. BYU had a great TV number, second best on ESPN in that time slot over the past 5 years. I will, and this is something we could talk to Jeff about if we have time. I was actually a little bit upset with that number. I was expecting another 500,000 people. I realize that it's a marker for that time period, but come on, BYU fans, we got to do better than that. There's millions of us out there. For us to barely get over 1 million views, everybody else might be trumpeting that. I'm actually saying that's not a good number. We need to do better, get the word out, and get more people watching games. Bill G's here. Good evening, he says, another one of our valuable members. Jeff Fuller says, sounds good. Okay, Jeff. And then Steve High Florida says, hit the like button. I really appreciate that, Steve. Thank you so much. You've been one of the first ones that's helped us keep going, and I really appreciate you. Here's a comment from Steve A. It says, go Beavs. Let's get Big 12 expansion done for OSU and Washington State, and they have successful future in playoff talks. Hey, look, we're on your side here. We have been for months and months and months. We aren't – some of these guys are just coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden saying, hey, this could really happen. Look, we've been talking about this since May, okay? Go back and watch our recordings. We've always said that we thought Washington State and Oregon State not only should not get left behind, but they should be in the Big 12, if not another power conference. Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. So let's just start off. Since Ute's not here, we can't go over our picks yet. We can do that when he's in the house. Let's dive into the Washington State stuff.
Let's get right to it.
Washington State and Oregon State, and I know we're going to have a lot of people watching tonight that have never watched our show before because of this sort of reporting. Please make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications if you're new to the channel. All right, I'm going to bring up this notification, which is really kind of funny, the timing of it. It came out maybe an hour before our show was supposed to start, okay? And what's funny is a lot of the stuff they cover in here are questions that we've been asking for months. What is Washington State going to do? And by extension, this applies to Oregon State as well. What is their plan? They can't just be sitting back and just saying, oh, woe is me, we're not going to get active. What are you thinking that Washington State's plan is here?
Well, to me, when you see stuff like this, generally it comes as a response to something, right?
Right.
And we don't really have anything visible to us out here on the periphery for this to be in response to. So I tend to think this is, I don't know if the response is the right word, but I'll just go ahead and use it. A response to whatever's going on internally within the system in their negotiations. Because it just kind of came out of the blue. Like, yeah, we were having talks about this today, and this came out, and some people were joking that it's connected. Well, it's not connected, but it is definitely connected to something on the inside going on. And then to top off this, not to kind of blow past this, but, we also got the Ross Dellinger piece that we may or may not get into today, but just to kind of show that multiple things are coming out today for, whatever reason.
Well, and let's talk about, and I'm going to take this off for just a second. We'll review that document in just a second. Yeah. But let's really cut to the news and what we've been talking about for months and months and months. Look, it was writing on the wall that something was going to happen with the Pac-12. We were saying all along there was a really good chance the whole thing blows up. That was, a lot of people didn't get on that train until very, very shortly before it actually happened. Uh-huh. So we knew that if there was going to be an explosion of conference movement, the four corners were probably going to be guaranteed to the Big 12. Was there a small chance any of those schools could have gone to the Big 10? Maybe a 1% chance, but I think everybody knew the four corners were going to find a home if it wasn't the Pac-12, and that was going to be the Big 12, which meant there were going to be four schools left over. Cal and Stanford, nobody cared about. Okay? Let's just say that again. Nobody cared about Cal and Stanford. There was no upswell of support. There was nobody coming to their defense saying they must be part of this Big Ten move until the Big Ten move happened. And then after that, it was like they were desperately pleading to get into the Big Ten. Okay? They were never going to be in the Big 12. Now we jump ahead a month. Cal and Stanford go to the ACC along with SMU, who wrote a check to join their conference. So now that move is done, which left two schools that we always knew were going to be on the outside looking in, Washington State and Oregon State, that needed to find a home. Okay, now we butt that up against the timing of, we started at the beginning of September for the college football playoff renegotiation, which is started and has been started and stopped twice with meetings since the beginning of September. They've tried to have this meeting twice, and both times it got canceled. Why was it canceled? Because they couldn't get enough people in the room to agree to just leave Oregon State and Washington State in the lurch. They're not going to just agree to have them hanging out there. Now, I have a different reason for that happening than you do,
sure.
And we can go through that really quick. But regardless, they were being left out and needed to be in some way covered. So now we get to today. Two meetings have been canceled for the college football playoff. this announcement, if you want to call it that, from Washington State, getting a little more aggressive, trying to control their own destiny. And then you have the lawsuit going on that the Pac-12 tried to sort of steal the conference from underneath Oregon State and Washington State in the dark of night. So now that we're all caught up, and now that everybody knows where we're at, where do you think Washington State and Oregon State stand, not only today, but for the next 4 weeks?
Well, in order to kind of get into this, one more thing to add to all of that, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
We kind of found out after the fact that the ACC was a player in this whole situation as well. They were trying to get Cal, Stanford, and the Four Corners to them. And so the Big 12 didn't just kind of beat the Pac-12, but they also beat the ACC when it turned to getting those four. So that kind of shows your mark was on top of things there. In terms of where this gets to us with Oregon and Washington State, they kind of got left. I think honestly, the plan was inevitably maybe to leave them to the Mountain West or to the AAC, because it looks like the other 10 were just going to come in, divide up the money, and basically dissolve the conference.
Right.
And Washington State, Oregon State said, "Nah, taking this to court. We got to, the injunction, the restraining order, so that they couldn't hold the vote." And so now we're sitting here with the situation where all pending votes cannot happen because they require unanimous votes. So there's no, majority vote that can come in and push anything through, not in the CFP, which is why it hasn't gone anywhere. I was showing that on Twitter today. Kirk Schultz is sitting on that board. Nothing is going through there until this gets figured out. So if people don't understand what we mean by what CFP business is being held up, to you, David Hackett in chat, it requires a unanimous vote to get their payout structure for the 2024 playoff lined up. It's supposed to be different than the 2023 structure. So until they get that figured out, they're kind of in a lurch as to how that's going to work. And remember, they can't just use the same payout structure as they have now, because it's going from a 4-team to a 12-team. So everyone's stuck, and you don't just do this last minute. So that's where we stand now. Washington State and Oregon State have created this log jam that everyone now has to deal with before any business can go forward.
So, and the reason that matters, and the reason that this is all even able to happen, is because the Pac-12 has, not the Pac-12, sorry, the AQ11 voting blocks, all the different conferences, the P5, the G5, all that together with Notre Dame. When they negotiated that, there's a rider in there that says for 2 years a conference can be below 8 teams and still be counted as a power conference. Well, that was
sanctioned by the NCAA to even exist. Yeah.
And what that means is that for 2 years, for 2024 and 2025, they would have this rump conference hanging out there of 2 schools that would basically be able to do anything they want, basically bring themselves in as a top, one of the top leagues, and they could immediately be put in the playoff, right? If they are at a if they're at a high enough rank, they would qualify as a conference.
As long as they have a full schedule, they have to have the schedule.
Right, but there's enough teams there's 130 teams. There's teams out there that are going to have bye weeks. Both those schools are going to be able to get BYU is able to cobble together schedules every year. They could easily find bye partners to be able to find them. They're not going to necessarily get a home and home. They just need to hold games.
I don't want to say that they can't. I'm just saying those schedules are generally figured out multiple years in advance. They're not figured out for the next year. So
I understand.
It's tough. And if you're holding up FBS business, most of those schools are going to have, do they want to go through the problem of rearranging the schedule to help you when, not to say they can't, because I don't know.
Well, think about it. They have how many schools moved conferences?
Oh God, do I have to count that up right now? It's been pretty crazy.
It's 9 schools changed. And how many of those had conference games that are now going to be home games? Sorry, non-conference games that are now going to be conference games. BYU, Utah, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and whoever. Those teams are going to have openings because those games are now conference games. They are no longer out of conference. So there is a bevy of games for the next couple of years that are going to be available because all these schools changed conferences and all their out of conference games became conference games. So I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying there's a possibility. It's not an impossibility
possible.
they could get conferences.
But like
just
our
together.
latest example is Ohio State just had to pay the University of Ohio $1.9 million to fill that slot that got, who was it, Washington?
It was Washington.
Yeah. So, there's also another little clue. Did they know this was coming, when they dropped that game? And that was well before Washington was announced to join the Big Ten. But it's costing them 1.9, 2.9, some crazy amount of money. So,
But Moen said they like to put that money within Ohio State.
Sure,
just in general,
and that's only one game.
But
but Washington State and Oregon State would have to do that how many times?
Of course, yeah. I'm not. Again, I never said it was easy.
It's tough. I just
said it's possible, and all it is now at this point, it's a Damocles sword hanging over the neck of the College Football Playoff Committee. You have two schools that are bound and determined to make life most difficult for anybody out there that is trying to make it so they're not in a power conference. And honestly, they don't deserve to drop out. Just because other schools were able to find a home, that doesn't mean they should be left in an orphanage. That's ridiculous.
And that's the unfortunate part about the business is that, it doesn't end up coming down to who deserves what. It's just, it's difficult. But
so this point here, Cleveland Rocks, by the way, thank you so much for your super chat, Cleveland Rocks. He says might not be a wise idea to bring in more PAC members as they would become a large voting block and change the dynamics of the Big 12. Your thoughts? That is exactly why it hasn't happened already. Well, I guarantee you, they do not want to have 6 schools that used to be Pac-12 that would have a 6-school block that could vote, and affect things in the Big 12. I guarantee you that's a concern. But it's not a majority.
It's a concern, but if I may play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
This harkens back actually to the Big 12. Well, the reason why these conferences want to keep their expansion small. If you remember how the Texas and Texas A&M wanted to join the Big 8, and they just wanted them, but then Baylor and Texas Tech ended up getting pushed on because of government, and that forced the Big 8, instead of going to 10 where they could just be one conference, one division, they had to split, and that caused Oklahoma and Oklahoma State to go with the South, and we all know where that goes from there. Not well. So these large expansions are, I'm assuming, because we've seen plenty of word from these commissioners about it, that they are not desirable. These conferences don't like this. They've been pushed to go much faster than what they like. Now, in terms of Oregon State and Washington State forming a voting block with Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, I might push back on that a little bit because you remember those 4 schools were willing to leave Oregon State and Washington State behind. Does that automatically form a voting block? I don't know. I almost maybe would think Oregon State and Washington State, as per, the types of schools that they are, might actually find a little more common ground with some of the OG 8, as some folks are saying, the old 8. So I wouldn't guarantee it, but to your point, there has to be some worry about that, right? I mean, they've got a long time of history together. So,
well, sure.
But that's what the Big 12 is now, and it's going to be even more because they're not done. They're going to expand out east. So you're going to have east schools that have ties together. So I think that's just something they're going to have to be used to in the Big 12, is that they're going to have to all come together with their, different voting groups and blocks and figure out an answer together.
That's the risk you run when you run a national conference. When you have schools in all 4 time zones, you're going to have those risks. It's part of the game. But consolidation is happening, guys. And if you weren't on board with it before, and you weren't on board with it after the 4 schools came to the Big 12 and 4 went to the Big 10 and 2 went to the ACC, if you weren't even into it then, please don't take your realignment hat off yet, because there's more stuff coming. I'm not really ready to report on. I haven't been able to confirm. But the Monty Show today put out a note basically saying that UNC and Florida State reached out to the Big 12 about moving. So I'm not gonna report on that because I don't know anything about it. I'm gonna do some research. But if that's even out there, what that shows is the dissatisfaction, the level of concern that these conferences have to have. The ACC is prime example. They had a conference that used to be unified. Now, because of the way they did expansion and shoving it down their throats with Notre Dame, you have 3 schools that came out and actually said, we're not going to be in alignment with you just for a vote. We want to be noted as a no vote. So go ahead and expand all you want. But we're telling the world we are not happy with where this conference is going, and we're going to find a better home.
That was pretty much unprecedented.
It had never happened. It had never happened like that before.
You never see them make a public vote against each other like that. You always come together. Like if you're not going to have the votes for your side, you end up voting for the other side in the public vote.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Turn on your notifications on Twitter and on YouTube so you get our notifications for the information we put out and all the shows we present. Please leave us a comment or suggestion. We read through those things and try to respond to them. There's been thousands. It's been difficult to keep up, but I do try to read all of them. And then make sure that leave a comment if you want to, and if I have time, I'll grab it and bring it over. If you want to guarantee you get it in, you can do what Cleveland Rocks did and make it a super chat. I haven't missed a super chat yet in 5 months, so those always get read. So if you have something top of mind, you want to get it out, that's the best way to do it. And the third way you can do it is join the Big 12 Mafia Holy Rivals family and become a subscriber. You go to the main Big 12 Mafia page. In the middle, there's a button that says join about halfway down. Go through that and sign up as one of our paid subscribers and become a member. All right, so let's get back to this because I know a lot of people are here to talk about this Washington State stuff. So I'm not going to read this. Go ahead.
I can point out something in chat real quick. Moff
go ahead.
made a good point, and we don't have to talk about it right this moment, but just to kind of mark it for later. I think that's a pretty important point to bring up at some point.
One?
The one about what Big 12 will get for doing this, because I think a lot of people have been getting it wrong. What I've been saying in X is that the Big 12 is getting kicked around. This is just the opposite. This is a position of strength for the Big 12 to take advantage of this, to be the one that creates a solution, and the one that creates a solution gets something in return. So
okay,
not that I necessarily agree with everything he says there, but in like the general sense of it, 100%.
Okay, and we'll try to get to those marked comments as we go through this. So we appreciate everybody being here, and please leave your comments. The conversations you guys have on the comment section by yourselves is brilliant. Feel free to keep doing that, and we'll try to answer them as many as we can. Before I start reading this, I want to point out the couple of QR codes on the screen. The one in the upper left-hand side is for the Crimson Collective. That is an NIL for Utah. If you're a Utah supporter and you want to donate to an NIL, they make it really easy. Scan that QR code with your phone, go to the webpage, and sign up. As far as the one on the left-hand side, that's supposed to be a Coug Connect QR, but it isn't actually. It's actually a QR code for BYU mini football helmets, which is one of my advertisers. So go ahead and scan that, and if you want to buy a mini helmet, scan that code. Otherwise, I'll try to make sure I put up the Coug Connect NIL one. All right, here we go. Let's get through this. So this was put out just tonight, and it's a statement from the administration at Wazoo. It says, as we continue to navigate the evolving landscape of intercollegiate athletics and conference realignment, I would like to provide a brief update. Okay. So I'll post the link. In fact, can you post the link in the comment section, Immaculate? Post the link to this.
Yeah.
And then that way people can go to it if they want to, and I can cruise through these because I'm not going to read the entire thing. So this is a key question. What conference will Cougar Athletics play in next year? This has yet to be determined. Okay, that's a bit of an understatement. They are scrambling to try to find somebody, and they're doing a lot of work on their behalf. I really appreciate the effort they're putting in. And I would say this isn't just Washington State. This is also Oregon State's doing the same thing. It says we are also continuing to engage in fact-finding conversations with the Mountain West Conference. We'll discuss a variety of different partnership opportunities and options with them. What stands out about that sentence, Immaculate? This one right here.
Yeah, well, funny that you asked that. That kind of connects into what Dellinger was just reporting on.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what you're going to say about Dellinger. What stands out about this to me is the AAC is not part of it.
Right, absolutely, yeah,
That's
and
what stands out to me. Yeah,
Oresco basically said that they weren't talking with them
yeah.
anymore. So
We can if we have time, we'll get to that other article.
yeah. I was just saying,
Yeah.
like, I'm just kind of connecting that these two things came out on the same day,
At this
and
within hours of each other.
within hours, and are kind of going
So
in the
here's
same
an
direction.
explanation of what happened with the legal thing that they did last week to stop voting. Essentially, it says, why did Washington State and Oregon State University take legal action against the Pac-12 conference? As the two remaining members of the Pac-12 conference, Washington State and Oregon State have filed a legal action to confirm that they are the sole remaining board members of the conference's governing body, consistent with the conference constitution. What this means is, sorry, that's bad English. What this means is that they're claiming ownership to the conference and everything that comes with it. The Pac-12 network, all of the credits that they're getting from the NCAA tournament, everything they are laying claim to.
Mhm.
Well, obviously, the other 10 schools are saying not so fast. We're not going to let you rob us. We have some vested interest in those things too. So that's why you get a lawsuit. There's legal action to stop them from changing anything in the governing body without it being unanimous, which is what Immaculate described earlier. And they're going to have to, this is going to have to go through the courts, or it's going to have to be settled. Let's see here. What do Washington State and Oregon State hope to achieve? Acting to preserve the options for the Pac-12 and protect the conference's resource is not our only responsibility. Let's see. There is no definitive timeline for our litigation, but we can expect that it will be several weeks or months before we have clear answers on contested issues. All right, I need to say something here very clearly. And on Twitter, it does not come across. And I don't know why there's been a breakdown in communication, but I'm going to say this in no uncertain terms. There is no way that they are going to get an invite to the Big 12 conference or anyone else until this is settled. If Washington State and Oregon State don't have any leverage to join another conference, in other words, paying something to get something, it's going to be very difficult for them to find a home in the Big 12 or the ACC or anybody else. Because as we've seen, schools are going for free now. The going rate has gone down precipitously for what a school can demand to join a conference. Yep. What they're able to get out of that is very, very much smaller than it was even 2 months ago. So without legal action, without this being resolved, the Pac-12 is going to continue to be just this muddle, and Washington State and Oregon State are going to find it's very difficult to find a home.
Yeah, and I think that this is exactly what they're doing, is they're creating value. And that value may not be their direct value to the conference, but it's what they're holding up in terms of business. And so that's what I think you're right on. I think this is a push for a settlement, because otherwise, if this continues on, it's going to take way too long. I mean, it's going to affect 2026.
Exactly. Yeah. Which those negotiations, they've tried to start them twice.
I mean, yeah, they can't even get 2024 done, let alone 2025, right. 2026. So.
All right, so let's scroll down. So that's what I'm glad that. Go ahead. You want to say something?
That's the part that I really wanted to point out. That last thing right there.
Go ahead.
When you get down to the bottom of that, it says there's no definitive timeline for the litigation, but we can expect that it will be several weeks or months before we have clear answers on contested issues. Of everything that was in this, the part that stood out to me the most was this right here. This is the threat, because it's about the time. It's about the time that it'll take, about the time that it'll hold up things. And we know that they wanted to do the CFP this month. So when they start talking about several weeks or months, you're talking about a whole, basically power of magnitude larger than the solution timeline that everyone else wants. So this is the threat. They're saying, if you want something done, okay, we can come up to a deal. Otherwise, this is going to last this long, and you don't want that.
Here's a comment. I'm going to make this small again. Sorry. Moff Prof, the one you were pointing out, this is his statement. He says, if ESPN is wanting Big 12 to bring in 2 more packed schools, Big 12 needs to be guaranteed at least 2 choice ACC schools. Sure, SEC and Big get their first, second picks from the ACC, but Big 12 should get the next 2. I have no idea where that's coming from, Moff Prof. How could you? Are you saying they sign a contract that says they get to pick, because the big bully in the room is the SEC. It's not even the Big Ten.
So. Yeah, and I don't necessarily agree with like this as he puts it down, but the general concept is that the Big 12 will have a stronger position to negotiate for something. If that's, the schools that they get a bigger payout for.
Right.
If they get a renegotiated payout for everybody for going along with all this, I don't know. I could sit here and throw out a bunch of stuff and maybe hit with something, but really I'll just let everyone else have the fun of doing that. And I'm just going to say they will have the power to get something for basically solving this problem that everyone now is dealing with. So that's the strength of the Big 12. It's not a weakness.
Greg's here. Good to see you, Greg. His comment says, I saw that on the Money Show. We're talking about the UNC and Florida State talking to the Big 12 in August. But the only way the Big 12 gets FSU and or UNC is when the ACC implodes and neither the SEC or Big 10 invite them. I think the chances that happens are very, very small. But maybe not maybe not a zero sum. Maybe there's a 1% chance that could happen.
Let's just say the Big 10 and the SEC are like, no, we're not willing to really deal with this right now because you need to get that figured out. Well, what if Yormark's coming in and going, I'll fucking deal with it. I'll deal with it.
Yeah, maybe.
And I'm not saying that this is happening. I'm just saying maybe if they're looking for some more threats to be made, if they're looking for more options, a good backup plan, like if those schools go to the Big 12, say, Florida State, Clemson, UNC, maybe 2 or 3 more, the Big 12 is getting a renegotiated contract. I don't know what it would be. I'm not even going to try to determine what that would be. But if that was to happen, they're not making 31.7 a year anymore. I don't know what it would be, but I think it's a threat. I don't necessarily think it'll happen, but I don't know. We'll see.
Sergeant Pickles is in the house. He's one of our paying members. Good to see you, Pickles. Good evening, all. How we doing? I'm doing good. How you doing, Immaculate?
I'm good.
All right.
Good to see you, Pickles.
Greg Kirsch is hit the like button. I like that. All these things that say hit the like button and welcome. I really appreciate those. Our web, it's still not a resub. Our web, you got to get that fixed. I need to see green. He told me that he thought it did renewed and it didn't, so I'm just teasing him. He says the AAC has been out for a while. Yeah, right. Yep. So the reason I brought it up is I find it interesting that he would decide to recount it in this statement. Like, why bring it up? You told us that a month ago. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that is. Let's see here. Before we move on to further comments in that thing, let's see this. Steve Moser says basketball tournament bracket is Oregon State and Washington State automatically in the semifinals and the other 10 teams playing for the other 2 spots. That would be funny. All right, let's see down here. Our web, who is green now? Our web's back. Yay! Our web's a subscriber again. He says, guys, the departing PAC members aren't getting robbed any more than UT and OU not getting their NCAA credits moving with them to the SEC. Our web, we do not disagree. We figured you're getting better things in these other conferences anyway. Why do you get to stick around and try to pick the carcass? I don't think anybody here is a proponent that those schools should get that stuff. Now, Sergeant Pickles and maybe Rebecca Go Huskies might disagree, or Puddles might disagree for Oregon, for the University of Oregon and Washington, but I don't see why they should get that money anyway.
I don't even think that's the main thing. I think honestly the main thing they want to do is dissolve the conference.
Yeah, but see, if they do that the result of dissolving it though would mean that they would disperse the money, and that's what they want.
Right, but it also comes down to the payouts from the CFP. If there's 5 power conferences getting the power conference payout versus 4, and
sure.
Anyways, it gets complicated.
That's where consolidation is key, and why it made sense last fall that they would consolidate to at least 4, because the payout's bigger for the remaining 4 if the one is gone. And it was funny because I argued with people on Twitter for days about that last October and November. And it was like I was speaking a different language. People could not understand what I was saying. They didn't get that when the money disappeared, or when the conference disappears, that meant there was more money for the other conferences who were alive. I don't know why that was such a difficult fight.
Because there's a kind of a weird combination of, by bringing more of these schools into the same conferences and also at the same time changing the way the payout works. It used to be the conferences got a flat amount of money, and no matter how many teams you had, they all equally split it up. Whereas now the conference gets the amount of money based upon how many teams they have.
Right.
So it was kind of like a double whammy in how they were really going to be taking a big stab at more of the money by using consolidation because of these new rules that are coming in.
But I got to believe that was on a whiteboard 4 years ago.
Oh, sure. Oh, this is not new. This isn't like figuring it out as they go. I mean, it
just seems simple to me. Anyway, Sergeant Pickles, again, one of our members, says Immaculate would love your take on UW beating the brakes off MSU. I take that as a personal hit. Why aren't you asking me my opinion, Pickles?
I guess he wants to
Come on. You and I are talking Seahawks. You and I are talking Plains, and here you don't ask me about Michigan State. I watched that game. I know each year is different, but I hope the Huskies will be above average in year one. What do you think about that? You're an Iowa guy.
This Washington team is probably top 4, top 6.
They're good
conference. Yeah, I think that they could beat Penn State,
they could beat Michigan
Ohio
today.
State or Michigan. I don't know where they are because their offense is so good. I don't really know where their defense is at. But yeah, I mean, this Washington offense, now, you got to maintain that year to year, and that's tough. But I think now that, I'll be honest, now that the pack's been divided up a little bit, I think that you might even have a little bit better recruiting chances out there in the West. So I think that the future is good for for Washington. This UW is making me think Wisconsin every time.
My opinion is right now UW should be top 4. They should be in the playoff. If they win out or even lose only one game, they beat Utah in the conference championship game, because somehow Utah is going to find their way back there. That Washington makes it to the playoff. I'm saying that now. That team is loaded. I'm not sure how they got it so loaded. I'm not sure how they scored Penix. I'd like to hear some history on how that move happened. But that team.
He was really a transfer, wasn't he?
Yeah, from Indiana or Illinois. Sorry.
Yeah. No, they just you got the quarterback and you get the receivers to go with them, I guess.
Right. Sergeant Pickles, really quick, he says, I assumed being on Peacock meant nobody else watched it. We're gonna look at ratings here in a little bit. So don't go far. We are not gonna skip over ratings. We just need to get through this thing for Washington State and Oregon State. Okay, so let's see. Did we do this one? Protect the conference resources. I don't care about the faculty. I don't care about the financial impact, although this financial impact for Washington State is particularly horrible because their finances are so screwed up. But we're not going to get into that. That really doesn't have anything to do with the argument that we're going through. I don't care about that. Are you in contact with Oregon State? This is something for all those Beaver fans that have become fans of the show. We are in regular and ongoing contact with our counterparts at Oregon State on many different levels. We are working together on our legal strategy, financial planning, and conference affiliation options moving forward. Just so everybody knows, this is basically one school in 2 locations. That's how this is going to be handled. Wherever one goes, the other one's going to go with them. Let's see. Impact again. There's notifications. Did you post a link to this, by the way?
I did.
Okay, yep. Great. And then what I can do to help, I really like this call to arms. They should have done this months ago. This statement should have come out months ago to put people's fears at rest. And they let it simmer. They rode the coattails of Washington and Oregon, and they're paying the price for it. They should have done this a long time ago. OS Beaver and Beaver Dam. I want to make sure I get it right.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Is that right, Beaver Dam?
Yeah, sounds right.
Both followers of mine. I've been on their Twitter Spaces shows. They have been trying to gin up support by Oregon State and Washington State to get out and get active. I've been trying to do the same thing. I know there's others that have been doing it too. The more active and the more out in everybody's face you are now, it can't hurt you. Now, can it help you? I don't know. It might be marginal, but as a fan, don't you want to feel like you could do something to help? I would tell you to get involved. I would tell you to stay active on Twitter. Make sure you and your families are all watching the games to bring up your ratings. Anything you can do to bring a profile back to your school. Do you want to say anything to that, Immaculate?
Well, yeah, and on-field performance isn't like the end-all be-all, but it does matter. When you're talking about ratings, when you're talking about numbers, on-field performance gets people to watch you. You're relevant. So I think if there's any year in which the on-field performance of Oregon State and Washington State mattered, it's this year right now. And anytime that maybe you're seeing one of the networks having broadcasting your game, sell that out, be there, be loud, make a good show. The networks want that. They want to see that if they come there, that it's going to show well on TV, that the crowds are going to be loud and lively. They can get good shots of that because people kind of want to feel when they're watching these games that they're a little bit immersed in the game and they're part of it. So for those games, whenever they happen, whenever the networks are coming to look for you, like this week, aren't they being on Oregon State versus Washington State?
Yes, that on that's network? This week. Yeah.
That one, is that at Washington State Pullman or is that at Corvallis?
I believe it's in Pullman.
Yeah, they got to get that stadium filled. That has to be big. Oregon State fans, travel over there, get there if you can. I know it's Pullman. I don't know how far that is, but I'd show up and be loud. This one matters. This one matters in a much bigger sense than what it normally would.
I think the last thing we want to say is that on this part for Washington State and Oregon State is if you're a fan, tell other people that they need to get active. The more engagement, I know it sounds silly, but the more engagement on Twitter, the more engagement even on Facebook or Instagram, anything to raise the profile of these two schools, you guys need to make it your mission for the next however many months it takes to get all this sorted. I don't think your fear should be, are we going to join the Mountain West next week? They're not in a rush to do that. What they're trying to do is settle this legal stuff. Yep. So once the legal stuff comes, now you guys can start making decisions on other information. But right now, as a fan, and I would even speak to the schools administrations, get as active on social media and on YouTube as you can. Anything you can do to raise the profile.
And we've been saying, hey, look, don't think that just because it's football season that this stuff isn't going on right now. We were saying that and it probably sounded a bit like, yeah, right. Well, here you go. 2 things in one day related to this have come out. There is fire to this. It is going on right now. So, and this is the future for those 2 schools. All
right. So we just passed 60 live people. That's pretty good on a Tuesday night. Appreciate everybody being here. Please subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to our Twitter accounts. Make sure you're following those because we're constantly talking about these topics on Twitter. And then turn on your notifications for both Twitter and YouTube. I'm going to start reminding people to turn on their notifications on Twitter too, because if you don't do it, you're not going to get the best of the rest of information that you could possibly come across, which I would think is part of our content. Let's cruise through some of these other things before we go on to another topic. Just for a heads up, evidently Wild Ute ran into trouble at work tonight, so he's not going to be here. So we're not going to do our pick'em tonight. So we're not going to do our review or our preview. We'll save that for the next day that he can come this week.
You just do it all on Friday. Just do both.
Boy, that'd be a long. I'll have to ask my wife. I need my wife's permission to extend it that long. In 15 minutes, we have David. Let's see.
David Buss.
Yeah, I want to make sure I get his name right because I've said it wrong in the past. I don't want to do it again. Give me 1 second. David Talks Buffs, who's a Colorado University booster, and he has his own show. You've seen him on our show before. He's going to come in here and we're going to talk Colorado. So if you want to talk Colorado or you hate Colorado, stick around because we're going to be going through that. Really quick, go through some comments before I go on to one other thing. C. John says Big 12 is the only conference that can guarantee FSU and Miami. UNC, North Carolina State, Duke, and Pitt will stay together. Rivalry matters. Yeah, Bob Thompson said rivalry matters, but money also matters, and those markets are most of them are desirable by bigger fish than the Big 12, unfortunately. Craig Kerr says Washington has to be above average. 11 of the Big 12 Big Ten schools suck. I don't think there's anybody debating that. Sergeant Pickle says, I assume being on Peacock, man. Oh, we already did that one. Sorry. Let's scroll. Rebecca, Go Huskies is here. She says Penix is Indiana's QB and DeBoer was the offensive coordinator. That makes sense. Now I understand why at Indiana, not in Illinois, but in Indiana, when they came to Washington, that they would come together. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
So I'm guessing Indiana was a no vote on Washington, huh?
Maybe. I'm sorry I got that wrong, guys. I apologize. Sometimes I remember things wrong. Sergeant Pickles again, I'm reading more member comments than anybody. He says, beat Utah once in a conference championship. We can do it again. Okay. I'm not going to argue
that. Could be Washington's year.
It very well could be. Craig Kirsch says, at Blazed Bunny, I assume you're betting your life savings since UCLA is getting 4.5 points. Ute isn't here, but we can quickly talk Utah, UCLA. What are your thoughts?
I would really want. I mean, is Cam playing? Like he suited up and he was practicing, wasn't he?
Say it again.
Is Cam Rising?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know the latest on Cam. I was waiting for you to tell me that tonight.
This is a little tough. I mean,
if he plays this, if he doesn't, that.
I definitely think they win if he plays. And at this point in time, I think I'm going to stick with Utah on this, no matter what. It's just yeah, I think he's getting it. If he's not there, it might only be a 3-point game. It might be very close. So, with the spread is where I'm thinking on that.
It's in Salt Lake.
No, I know, but I'm just thinking the difference of if they're 3 points ahead or if they're a touchdown ahead.
With the spread,
you're Utah both ways.
I think Utah's going to win either way. I think UCLA has those baby soft uniforms. They can't win anything. I've never been a fan of UCLA ever. So I'm going to take Utah to answer your question. Steve A is correcting me again. He says OS Beaver and the Digital Dam. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. You knew who I was talking about. I want to call them both out again, OS Beaver and at the Digital Dam. Both follow on Twitter. You want to know what Oregon State is doing or what they're going to be doing? Follow those two people. They're awesome, and I really appreciate both of them.
Kind of seem to be the leaders of the Oregon State, shall we call them the Twitterati?
Yeah, now, yes, definitely. They're more active than they ever were before the Four Corners left, unfortunately. Cleveland Rocks, again, one of our members, says, happy BYU joined the Big 12. Great addition, very classy and humble. If the Pac had invited them years ago, the Big 12 would be the conference that would have collapsed. Well, I believe in that. I'm not sure if you believe in that, Immaculate, but I definitely believe it.
Yeah, I think that, especially when you're trying to take the Big 12 into a coast-to-coast type of conference with, trying to figure out travel and how to do that, I think BYU is a great partner to bring in to kind of help you figure out how to do it since they've been doing it for years.
Right. Well, and that's the advantage is they had been doing it for years. And it was really short-sighted not to bring them in.
There's a lot of advantages that people may not even see when it comes to bringing in BYU.
Right. For anybody who doesn't know, Rebecca Salisbury in the house says it's like 7 hours from Corvallis to Pullman. That's driving, and I can attest to that. I've made that drive. It is definitely it's on back roads. There's some interstate there, but you're getting a lot of 2-lane highways. So you just have to.
If there's ever a year to do it, this is the one.
That's right. Our Webb, again, one of our paying members, says on the OSU Wazoo to Big 12 scenario, could the Big 12 use the remote production capability of the PAC network to upgrade the Big 12 ESPN production quality while saving some cost, trying to see future PAC network value? Okay, our Webb, Bob Thompson actually answered this question. And he answered it. There's two pieces to the answer. The first answer is, does it have value? Absolutely, it does. Nobody is going to say that what they installed isn't valuable. They installed it to a fiber to everybody. It went to every campus, and it went to a central location. And then they moved the location, which was really stupid. Okay, so that first part of it absolutely has value. The second part of it is, Bob said each one of those individual contracts were negotiated independently, which means when the Pac-12 network is no longer the Pac-12 network and it's the Washington State, Oregon State network, all those satellite locations distinctly are going to be on an island, and they can make a choice to stay on the network or to go off and find different ways to find money. So you would have to sell, and this is where Brett Yormark's marketing genius, he would have to sell to people the idea that stick with us because we're going to bring additional value, and this is where we're going to bring it. Already there's 6 schools that are on the network if you bring in Oregon State and Washington State, Utah, ASU, University of Arizona, and Colorado. So that's half the conference. They would love to bring that infrastructure in. They already have state-of-the-art ESPN broadcasting at BYU with the BYU TV, which is an amazing product if you've ever seen it. It's like its own, anyway, it's like WGN quality. If they want to buy that and use that as part of the negotiation, it's absolutely there. But again, Bob hedged his bets by saying if they want to stay part of the network.
Yeah, I don't know all that much when it comes to this side of things. Especially now what we're seeing going on with cable. I had kind of looked at it as one of those situations where, well, maybe if you can get ESPN to group up with you on that, kind of like how Fox did with the Big Ten.
Right.
But with the bundling issues going on, I don't know how much impetus there is to do that. So I have a hard time valuing what that would be. But, I'm sure they're fighting for it to some degree. I just don't know how much this affects it.
Steve Moser says, whatever happened out Oklahoma State dude who came on here and said they were going 10-2 this year. Hey, you be nice to my buddy Cody. All right. All day O State. He's a fantastic contributor to the Big 12 social media circuit. And I'm going to defend him. Look, we all make predictions every day, and this is the business we're in. If you could call it a business, we're not getting paid, but if you're getting paid for your opinion, you're going to give it. And he works for Locked On Sports, so he gets paid for his opinion.
Still lots of season left.
Oklahoma State is a disappointment, and there's no way around it. There's something going on there. There's been little trails over the last couple of years, and maybe if Greg Swaim's still here, Greg, send me a DM if you're still here and we could talk Oklahoma State and you could give us some background in that. I'm not educated in it, but I do know the last couple of years there's sort of been some canaries in the coal mine. Anyway, Steve Moser says he's a homer clown. Okay, well, that's your opinion. I'm not gonna go any farther on that, Steve. All right, let's go to the next thing. And I think in 9 minutes we're gonna have David is gonna be joining us. So you and I are gonna start off with this discussion about the ratings for this last week.
Okay.
And Jeff, if you're out there still, send me a DM on Twitter, and I'll just send you the invite if you want to join. I would love for you to
good one to come in on this
and talk to us about these ratings, because they really, really matter. I just need to find them really quick. I'm going to send you the link, Jeff, if you're still out there. There you go. All right. So let's talk about these ratings. We'll leave Colorado for last because it was crazy number. Yep. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up. Some of the things that might stand out to you is teams that you might normally see on here weren't on here. Utah's not on here, and it's because of the matchups. We're really seeing a settling down of a lot of the broadcast numbers. It's settling down to where it's more normal. It's becoming more normalized, and what that means is that teams, when they've got a bad matchup, they're not going to get people watching them. The out-of-conference stuff is going to go away, and it's going to all be conference games. So these numbers that we've seen the first 3 weeks, the next 3 weeks might be significantly different. One of those might be with Colorado, depending on if they win or not. And again, we'll talk to Dave here in just a second. So out of these bottom ones, let's just go from Oklahoma down. Are there any of these that stand out to you for one reason or another?
Not really. I mean, it's all pretty basic. The Maryland, Virginia one, I actually thought was pretty good numbers. That was on a Friday night, almost getting 1 million there for two teams that, well, they can't even really fill the stadium with their own fans, let alone pull in. But I thought just shy of 1 million on that wasn't too bad for an FS1 Friday night game.
And that's really important, is who are the broadcast partners? Mm-hmm. That's over here on this side. If you're not used to seeing it, this is where they're broadcasting the shows or the games on Saturdays. Like I said, Utah's not on here, and Morehouse and Albany State is.
Yeah, and as we're talking about Washington State and Oregon State, just talking about that one, I do believe when we look higher, you'll notice that at that 3:30 slot on a Saturday, they only got 418 against San Diego State, but you'll notice they were up against pretty tough competition.
Yeah, no, I actually think that number for Oregon State was good.
Yeah,
I actually was impressed with that number. I'm just recalling why we're not getting those numbers, because they were Pac-12 network. That's why Utah's not on here, is because Pac-12 network does not broadcast their viewership.
No.
So Utah is probably going to be somewhere down here with all these others. I just wanted to clear that up and make sure that nobody thought that they were off the chart. It's just they're not getting the numbers from the Pac-12 network. I mean, some of these matchups were good. Oregon State, San Diego State was definitely a good game, and people watched it. As we move up, and Maryland, Virginia, that almost did $1 million. Well, $750,000. I think that's a pretty good number.
Yeah, it turned out to be a pretty good game until Maryland kind of ran away with it, but it was a pretty good game for most of it. So that's probably where they got the good numbers, while it was a tight game.
Agreed. BYU, Arkansas, TCU, Houston. I thought these numbers would be flipped. So now there's a couple things about this. One, this is SEC and it's on ESPN. Two, This is on Fox.
Yeah,
Fox 1, not FS1. It's on Fox and TCU Houston. So what between those two games, what speaks most to you about? Is it that TCU Houston was a better draw, or was it because of the time? Because they both started generally in the same time. Because of the broadcast partner, that's what affected the.
Well, this is where it gets tricky. Is once you start to get into these later evening games, what we don't see is how long the game before went into its broadcast, right? So, like just looking at this, you would say, well, BYU Arkansas kind of got the jump on the TCU Houston game, so maybe some of the people who might have watched the TCU Houston game kind of got stuck on the BYU Arkansas game because it was such a good game.
Right.
I don't know, but it's hard because I don't remember like what the delay was going into these games, like who was before them and carried over maybe. But I think it's a good showing for BYU Arkansas that for ESPN2, it pretty much got about the same as a in-conference game for TCU Houston, which is going to draw Big 12 fans regardless of if they're TCU Houston fans, and that's on Fox. So that was pretty good for BYU. I mean, that's a pretty good showing.
Well, and Jeff, again, I sent Jeff a text. I'm not sure he's going to be able to join us because he might have left. But he did a tweet earlier today that said it was the second best in the last 6 years in that time slot, the second best number, which really surprises me. I would have thought BYU would have drawn bigger than that, even on ESPN2. So I'm changing some of my paradigms in my head, saying, oh, maybe I need to change my expectations a little bit. But anyways, it was a good number according to historical numbers, so I'll take that. But BYU fans, we got to get out and do better than that. We absolutely have to do better than that. All right, we've got Jeff Fuller has joined us.
There he is.
How you doing, Jeff?
What's up? You caught me in my Bama gear.
Oh, great! I'm sure that's what people want to see. All right, so we're just going over these numbers. I appreciate you joining. I'm glad I caught you. And we're going to have a guy joining us from Colorado State, so I'm going to invite you to stick around and we can interview. You can be part of that if you want to. But let's talk viewership really quick. So please explain to everybody, mainly me, the BYU Arkansas number, and tell me why that's good, because I went on Twitter and said this sucks.
Yeah, so there's a big difference between channels and windows. I went back and looked at all of these primetime ESPN2 windows and went back to 5 years. So back to 2000, counting this year, 4 years past. And this was number 2 of all the games. I think number 1 was Tennessee, Kentucky. And the one was, I think, 1.4 million, 1.5. It was pretty big head and shoulders above everything else in this window. So the primetime ESPN2 window. And the next 2 games were just below. It was Oklahoma State, Arizona State. And geez, I'd have to pull up my tweet to remember the last one. But both those games involved ranked teams. Right. And whenever you have a ranked team, you get a lot more casual viewers, just because they're want to see, hey, my team's right above them, right below them. And, how's it going to affect me and my team? People just think they're going to see more quality. Whenever there's a ranked team, you're going to get more viewers. So
Right.
BYU at Arkansas, no ranked team. Two solid brands. I mean, we're not talking top 10, top 20 brands, but probably somewhere between 20 and 30 ish brands as far as fan bases and such. And then you have to look what you're up against. A lot of times people think, oh, well, you're playing the SEC, you should get tons of SEC fans. Yes, usually, but what other game was going on right then? You had Tennessee getting smacked by Florida, who is supposed to be horrible. That catches people's attentions, and most SEC fans are going to watch an SEC matchup rather than Arkansas BYU. So, I mean, just looking at that window, being the number 2 in the last 5 years, that's great. And I don't think any team that wasn't a P5 versus P5 matchup got over 500,000 views in that window, maybe 600 and something thousand. But breaking 1 million in that primetime window, and just imagine you're in primetime, you're going to be up against all the best games on the major over-the-air networks. So it's not, it's sort of a filler slot, and to get that, it's pretty much 1.1 million. That's solid. I mean, look at what was right above it. That was on Fox over the air, 1.2 million for TCU Houston. TCU was just in the college football playoff.
Right.
And they're on Fox. So these over the air networks, their distribution's much higher. Casuals are much more likely to be on those channels. And so, yeah, I was really excited. So you were totally wrong, Nathan, with being disappointed by this number. This was a great number.
All right. Well, I'm going to stay disappointed anyway, because I think we should be drawing 3 million every week. So
aim high.
I have high standards as it goes. Anyway,
3 million on ESPN2 would I think the world would end. That just doesn't happen.
Do you have a model that can adjust if it was in this slot? This is what it would do.
No. I just.
Okay.
I just look at comparable windows and just pretty much scroll back. There's no huge database that I own or control or anything. I've looked at these numbers for years and years, so I've got an idea. And I was thinking, hey, if we break 1 million, that's pretty darn good. But that's without going back and looking at the actual numbers. When I went back and looked at them, I was even more impressed because, again, no primetime game. There's only been 3 that have broken 1 million in the last 5 years on ESPN2. So we're in BYU against Arkansas was one of them. Pretty good game too.
It was a fantastic game, and unfortunately, Ute isn't here, so we're not recounting the good games of this last weekend, but we will do that tomorrow. I want to introduce everybody to David Talks Bus. How you doing, David?
I'm doing fantastic. It's good to see y'all again. Thanks for having me on, Nathan. I really appreciate it.
You buy it always, anytime you want. It doesn't have to just be when Colorado's winning. You can come on anytime you want.
That means next week. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
I want to introduce you to Jeff Fuller. He's a fellow BYU guy, and he does data dives on viewership, a lot of the realignment stuff. His knowledge really came out, and so he's one of our contributors to the show. So we were going over the viewership ratings, and obviously we saved the best one for last, and that is this Colorado insane number. So let's put this in perspective. Jeff, before we talk to David, who's going to just go crazy, how does this equate to an NFL playoff game?
Oh, I mean, NFL's always over 15 million, I believe, well into the double digits. Yeah, I mean, you can't compare to NFL. I mean, the last, I think the Jets, when Aaron Rodgers broke or ruptured his Achilles, that was 22 million viewers. And that was a record for Monday Night Football for like almost 20 years. But yeah, NFL is a whole different animal. NFL has so many casuals. And the real big thing the NFL's done, you have tons of fans, competing fan bases watching, but it's the fantasy leagues. A lot of people are watching that, they may not follow that team, but they really want to see what their player is going to do in that game. So you get a lot of casual viewers, more than just fans of those teams. But yeah, Colorado, I mean, this number though, I don't want to discount this number at all. I mean, Colorado's gone from 7 million to 8 million to 9 million viewers week to week. And this this number in this late slot on ESPN, not even an over-the-air network, this beat out at Texas, Alabama last week, which was 8-point-something million, which I was like, wow, that's a huge
And that
number
was
for
that was
ESPN.
prime time. That was in the early afternoon, right?
Yeah, it was prime time. That was the 7:30 Eastern.
Not 10 p.m. Eastern.
Exactly. Yeah, and also that the Alabama ESPN or Alabama Texas game that was on ESPN and ESPN2. It was a double broadcast. They had the Pat McAfee broadcast of that game that was sort of his guys making their commentary all the way through, similar to like the Peyton Manning on Monday Night Football type broadcast that they do. So yeah, I mean, this is just bonkers. This is bonkers. I've never seen anything like it in all the, and that's what's awesome about this. You get a lot of people who are jealous, a lot of people who are like, yeah, Oklahoma or Colorado, they're just flash in the pan, living it up while they can. This is bringing a lot of eyeballs to the sport, a lot of attention, and it's great. I love college football. I want it to be strong. Bring in more fans. Yes, Colorado's sucking up all the oxygen in the room, and your massive blue bloods are sort of jealous right now. But hey, it's good for the sport. Bring it on, and let's roll with it.
And just to point out real quick, Steve Moser makes a great point that I was going to actually point out too. Is this game we didn't get it right at the start. We had the Florida Tennessee game pushed into it. So there might have been people like looking for this game at 10 going, oh, this game it's not on. I'm not going to watch it, because how many casual fans are in this? So how much higher could that maybe have been if the broadcast for that started on time?
All right. So I'm gonna get in front of that. Let's get on. Let's stay on point here, okay? Wait, David. One more thing, David. One more.
Yeah.
Hang on, Jeff. Do you want to say something really quick? Because I want to say one more thing before David goes.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Colorado, the vast majority of people watching this were watching to see Colorado lose because they're sucking up so much oxygen. But that's eyeballs. You want to be the New York Yankees. You want to be the Dallas Cowboys. People watch because they hate you.
Love them or hate them as long as you feel about them.
All right. So I gotta, before we start, I want to out myself and just tell David that yesterday came out this morning. See Drake, who Locked On Big 12, did an interview. I was on it with him. He asked me how I felt about what has become sort of a mania there in Boulder. And in all honesty, I was pretty brutal in there. I said, well, it's wonderful this second, but rising tide raises all boats. Yes, but once the tide is out, the boats fall flat on the ocean floor. So it's something that I'm very jaded about what would happen with the future. So now you're here. You got 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Tell us why everybody should be believing that not only is Colorado great now, they're going to be great in 2 years.
Oh man. Well, thanks again for having me on. And I'm just thrilled. I think that, we got a great energy. We got a great mojo going on right now. I think what's kind of funny is that, every week I feel like the goalpost is kind of moving a little bit with this team. Let's not forget, I mean, the over under for this team was 3.5 games. And I think people, you just got to give credit where credit's due. I think we do get the over on that. I think we do exceed people's expectations. And I think everything going into conference play, it's going to be gravy. Like we've already gotten to see like what this team can do, maybe not gravy, but everything that we're going to see from now, it's like bonus points. That's kind of how I see it, this has just been an awesome experience. And I don't know, I'm trying to just cherish every moment of it. But I think with, coming up here in a couple years, I think possibly if you haven't been following this whole thing pretty closely, there are a lot of people that criticized or maybe was hesitant to think that Coach Prime coming to Boulder would be a good fit. But if you've lived here, if you know the tradition of the university, I always thought it was going to be a really good fit, for Coach Prime. I think that we were at our best when we had another very charismatic leader at the helm in Coach Mack. and, somebody who was, unashamed to be themselves, regardless of the backlash or the criticism that might have brought. And obviously Coach Prime does it with a little bit more flair than Coach Mac, but I think that, Boulder, we've seen this program have this before. And, it was just forever ago. For me, I was born in 92. So, I wasn't around for the national championship. I wasn't
Right.
around for that whole vibe. What I get, or, the snippets that I get is just from hearing other fans tell me about it, or, going back and watching the documentaries. But I think,
They were really good. I went and saw them play in Washington, and they took apart my Huskies. Absolutely dismantled the Huskies that day. It was the kickoff classic or something, and beat the hell out of UW. It was embarrassing. It was a great game, though.
It really seemed like they played with a tenacity and a physicality, and it seems like, we're getting back to that now. Obviously, things are still work in progress, but I think that, kind of what's been funny now is I feel like the story has been, well, you guys were 1-11, you're not going to do anything this year. So now that we're like getting over the 3 wins or so, now the whole thing is just, well, just wait till he leaves, then what's going to happen? And, I understand, but I do think that, there are a lot of things that I feel like the program has done to make Coach Prime comfortable.
Right.
Not only does he have a beautiful ranch outside of Boulder where he can overlook the Flatirons and get all of his fishing and outdoors activities in, and not have to worry about getting eaten to death by mosquitoes or dying in the heat or anything like that. He has to put up with
Right.
a little bit of snow, but the administration, the program, they've really checked their ego at the door and given him kind of the full keys to the car, so to speak, where he's been able to run this program how he would like to without interference from boosters, trustees, Rick George. Like, he has created a culture that with it hasn't been what power do we have to give up. It's been the philosophy of what do we need to do to empower you to be successful. So I think with the economic boom that's come, and just with all the attention, which is still really hard for me to wrap my mind around, the next thing is like, well, just wait till he gets a bigger offer. And yeah, I would love to see Coach Prime as the highest paid coach in college football, especially if it's here with my Buffs, because it can show you that, we can do it. But I think with how bad we have been over the last 20 years, I don't think that I don't think the program, I don't think this fan base is going to let him go. We've already made him a top 15 paid coach, if I believe correctly,
Right.
in college football right now. So to get from that $6 million amount to say 10 million, if someone else is offering that, I think with the support and the momentum that we have going on, you don't let somebody go like that. That's Nick Saban. That is Kirby Smart. I guess those are kind of the rising coaches. Kirby Smart is, obviously. But I think overall, the mojo is great right now. I think the recruits coming in is a great deal. And I think I think next year is going to be a year where we enter in with some expectation to compete in the Big 12 immediately. And I think if we're able to do that, heck, get into a college football playoff next year when it's expanded,
Right.
I think that's going to lay the foundation. But if Coach Prime, if we can recruit, with the best of the best here in Boulder, this early, I don't understand why you would go to a place like East Lansing and start all over again when you
Yeah, I
already
don't think
kind of have this
Michigan State.
momentum. Yeah.
No, I don't think it would be in Michigan State. It would be, I mean, let's really throw it out there. Could it be in Alabama? I mean, the sky's the limit. The opportunity is the school, though. I don't think it's the money. I don't think he needs the money. The money is more of a measuring stick. He wants to be measured as the most important coach around, but I don't think he would change his jobs for money. I think it has to be for opportunity and exposure. All right,
I think you're right.
Immaculate.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think you're right about that. I think that he took this job because it met things, outside of just the money. But
Right.
yeah, there could be another fit that works that he would be, excited to take on at some point. I think he has the opportunity to really carve out a legacy for himself. Nick
That's
Saban
true.
didn't take over a 1-11 team and
Yep.
bring them to a national power. I don't know if Prime is interested in following in the shadow of anybody, but I will say this. There's a lot of opportunity that I'm sure is going to come his way, but I get these texts from fans all the time or friends. Just wait till A&M offers him. If there's one team that I will just come out and say that is just not a culture fit at all, I don't know what's more opposite of prime time than
it's
College
not Texas
Station
A&M.
and
No.
the Aggies.
But you don't think he wants to have the Yale guys going for him?
Oh my gosh, those guys are so obnoxious. Can we just ban them from college
Can you imagine
athletics?
what he does with their outfit if he comes
They're
in
the
there?
worst. All right, Immaculate, you're next.
Yale guys with like chains. That'd be like, great. Actually, now that I think about it. Anyways, I agree with you, and I've actually even talked with Mafia. I was like, I want to go in about Colorado. I'm seeing so many people, it's getting almost like nauseating. See, oh, he's gonna go do this, he's gonna go do that. I'm like, please, does not anyone else come to the realization that this man does not do things like everyone else? Stop looking at going, well, this is what all coaches do. You go to the SEC, you get the payday, you do. This is Deion. People say, oh, he's going to go to the NFL. No, he's not. That is one of the most elite athletes that's ever put cleats on and went out there on the field. If that man ends up in the NFL coaching, all he's going to want to do is go out on the field. He's not going to want to be on the sideline coaching people that he's going to look at and go, I was better than you. I could go out there and I could beat you right now if my foot wasn't like this. So I think he wants to be with kids.
Yeah.
I think he wants to shape men. And I don't think he's going to ever leave the college ranks if he continues. And quite frankly, we've seen now the contract that he has. It's not the biggest, but it's pretty big. And when he got it, the AD was saying, we don't know how we're going to pay this, but we'll figure it out. Well, I'm pretty sure that comment is outdated.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're too worried about it. The amount that they're getting for tickets right now is so much larger than what everyone else is getting. It's not even close, and it's not even over. I don't care if they might lose to Oregon and USC. I'm sorry, brother. It's not going to change anything. Like, they're just going to be like, well, they didn't have Travis Hunter. So, okay, we're good.
And they were expected to lose anyway.
Right. But
they're
now
already, right?
but
they were
now
already
you've
counted
got
to
a
be-
built-in excuse. I mean,
Exactly.
I don't
That's
want to be
exactly
like
right.
they're going to lose because maybe they don't. But if you do,
Right.
you've got a built-in excuse so you don't lose all the hype.
That's
The point
right.
being is they're still going to continue to push this because when I picked these guys at the start, I picked them at 4-8, and people thought I was nuts for that. But I didn't have them beating TCU, and I didn't have them beating Nebraska. So to me, I'm adding
did.
two. You did. I didn't. I had them beating Colorado State, Arizona, and Stanford.
Yep.
And I keep those, and I add Nebraska and TCU, and I say, for me, the bottom is 6-6. The soft cap is 8-4 with potential wins on what Washington State and UCLA, and maybe you get
going to be tough.
it's tough. Like I say, soft cap meaning if you can pull these out, but and anything beyond that's kind of a miracle. Which I'm not saying they can't do because this whole season's kind of seemed like a miracle. But
I think Washington State's going to be watching the old Showtime basketball, the Lakers during the 80s. The score of that Washington State game could be 90-92 or something. There might not be any defense ever played in that game.
Could be wild.
Run and shoot unhinged, basically.
If I could wrap that up, the only reason I think that Deion stops coaching at Colorado is if he stops coaching. And that's my worry because of his foot. Every single time I watch him during these games, he's not moving the same at the end of them as he is at the beginning. Yeah. So for all these people talking about him going somewhere else, they have made so many they've done a lot for him to cater to that at Colorado. And I don't think he's going to want to go somewhere else and have to redo that again, where he's not going to have his kids there. Then it won't be graduated from there. So I'm with you. I think he stays at Colorado. My only worry is I think that they have a built-in heir apparent with the offensive coordinator. So, we'll see. I think he's at least back for next year because I think Shedeur is back for next year. So,
all right, Jeff.
That was my comment. I think Mac said he he wants to coach kids. My only question is, does he is he mainly just want to coach his kids? And if he's accomplished something great in a year or two and can go out, on top, retiring because of health reasons, everyone would understand that he's got nothing else to prove. But yeah, I don't get the, oh yeah, Florida or Texas A&M or Michigan State. Maybe eventually if I just don't see it. But something in the back of my mind just makes me think that he really wants to coach his kids. And after that, he may stay, he may go, but we'll see.
What do you think about that, David? Obviously you're living in the now, right?
Yeah.
You're not worrying about the outside noise. Let's just go week to week. But is that really, you sort of have to have that happy-go-lucky attitude with this team and try not to judge? You're already dealing with house money.
Yeah, that's definitely been my perspective. And like with my channel, I've always tried to remind like my viewers of that. Like, let's just enjoy this. Like, we never
Right.
know how long these different eras last in sports. And like looking back, I think like, earlier on, like even with the short Manning run, here in Denver, I feel like I didn't even appreciate that to its fullest extent. And then look where we've been since.
Right.
It's been really hard. And I think that regardless of, whether this goes 2 years, whether this goes 10 years, 15 years, he's leaving the program and the university in so much better of a spot than we were wondering at this point last year if we were just meant for Mountain West football.
Right.
And I mean, now we're hosting 5-star quarterback recruits. We have Lil Wayne here. We have, all the festivities going on. What's happened. So I don't think that, however long it lasts, I know at least I am going to be extremely appreciative of of this, because we were dead in the water. We were irrelevant. Our program has been resurrected, and that's something that I don't want to lose sight of. I think a big changing, this is kind of off topic, but I think like a big changing point for me and like how I approached my fanhood or sports was honestly like the death of Kobe Bryant, because as a Nuggets fan, I was just a Kobe hater. Right. And then when he passed away in that accident, I was like, man, I just didn't even appreciate really anything that he brought. And I've just wanted to make sure that moving forward, that I've just kind of appreciated or approached sports more with that type of outlook, to just appreciate the moment and what's going on and not get too caught up in what might happen in a few years.
I like this comment from C. John. I put it up on the screen. It says, the HBC you love, the star athlete and interesting character, the father-sons thing, the recruiting, the losing to winning, the pack, the Big 12 realignment, so many storylines. How do you not tune in? And I think that goes to even the negative viewers. It's drawing in people that aren't even football fans, that just want to be part of the Dion show. And what's ironic about all this, and I think all four of us can snicker about this, I thought George Kliavkov was an absolute nutter. I'll be honest. I didn't hear one decent thing out of him in the entire year plus of realignment nonsense. I didn't even know who he was before UCLA and USC left. I had never even heard of the guy, right? I didn't care what he was doing with the Pac-12. It didn't matter to me because BYU wasn't in the Pac-12. After that, and for the last year, he spun this web of deceit and constantly pushing the goalpost down the road. Everything else, he was just an insane dude. He just did not do a good job. The one thing he got right is the Coach Prime effect. Yeah. He predicted that. When was that? October, November last year?
Yeah.
And we all laughed at him. We're all, what are you talking about? Even Bob Thompson said one guy is not going to drive ratings. One guy's not going to dictate realignment. One guy's not going to. Bob Thompson, right? The godfather of all realignment news, said these things. I'm trying to get him back on my show. Maybe that's why he hasn't come back on recently. Because I brought that up. I'm teasing. I just need to follow up with him. But I am going to bring that up because he was definitely thinking it wasn't going to have a big deal. Well, let's bring up these viewership numbers again. These numbers are insane, guys. 9 million for a 10 p.m. That's 10 p.m. Eastern, folks. That's when everybody's already in bed. And it was on a tape delay, not tape delay, but they didn't start broadcasting the game for about a half hour because the Florida-Tennessee game went long. And they still got 9.3 million viewers, almost a complete 5 rating, which is craziness for college football.
If I could jump in, I had this interesting experience. So I went to the BYU game in Arkansas in Fayetteville. Went to the game, it's a 7 o'clock or 7:30 kickoff. So it was pretty late afterwards. Not many places are open. So where do you hit if you're a Southerner when it's late? Waffle House. Okay.
Yes.
We went to Waffle House and, there was a little bit of a line. We sort of expected that. We were there 2.5 hours. One of the employees quit while we were there. Wasn't because of
you guys that bad? I was gonna say, were you guys that bad?
She was new and she just had no idea what she was getting into. So she sort of quit on the spot.
Like baby.
That actually probably sped things up. But 3 different tables at that Waffle House had their phones out and had YouTube TV up and were watching Colorado State. So, I mean, that's just indicative of, and they were Arkansas fans, BYU fans, everyone who loves this sport is interested in watching this. Yeah. So just representative of, you're getting all the casuals and you're bringing in a lot of new people. That's probably more viewers than Colorado State has had in the last 3 or 4 years combined.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jeff, to your point, like just the amount of engagement, the amount of like random texts that I live 7 years in West Texas. So I'll get texts from people that I haven't talked to in forever. I was getting a couple texts at like 2 a.m. in the morning after the game. And, it's just been so fun. My whole thing is like, I know that so many of y'all have your teams, but, definitely hop on and enjoy the ride with us because, we just haven't even been able to be part of the discussion. And now, like with what's happening, it's just so crazy. But let's just all enjoy the show. That's really what it is. It's just a show every week,
and it'll continue to be a show even if he loses. I mean, if it starts to nosedive and totally go downhill, there's going to be a lot of people still watching because they want to see the carnage too.
Yeah,
so it's going to be interesting.
Immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
Immaculate. You said you wanted to say something. Sorry.
But I was just going to say to David here, Bomber here said nobody saw this coming. But if we go back to some of our older footage, he might have someone on his show who said, I actually kind of think Colorado might have a spot with the Big Ten. And a lot of it's due to Deion. This is going to be a story. Now, no one saw this coming.
Wow.
Yeah, he's shaking his head, but it's damn true.
You did.
I said Deion was the reason why.
Before they chose to go to the Big 12, we were talking about where the schools could go. And definitely you brought up Colorado, so did Moen. They also brought up Utah. They also brought up Arizona State.
No, I said Utah. Come on, you can't. Was if Colorado didn't work out on that one.
Look,
we have Utah guys who are asking about Utah. I'm like, I could see them maybe as
this
as a
is
final
this.
one.
You have to put it in
but
context.
Colorado was part of my thing. And
you have to put it in context.
Trying to toot my horn. I'm just trying to tell David.
You are. You're trying to call me out, and I'm telling you.
That's because you said nobody.
In context,
I'm somebody.
Okay. Let me just define this. That's like me saying BYU could eventually someday be in the NFL, and if it happened to be, wow, I called it out. You're saying 4 schools could have possibly gone to the Big Ten.
Didn't think Deion coaching at that level would be a story. Now, of course, I didn't know how big of a story it would be.
All I'm saying is you didn't call it out any more than you called out Utah or Arizona State.
Yes, I did. That's not true.
Okay, I don't remember.
But immaculate.
I don't want to argue about it.
I don't remember that.
Dave,
I don't remember.
You can't take a victory lap. You can't take a victory lap when they never got a Big Ten invite. I mean, they've been a big story.
Well, here's what happened. Commissioner Petiti came out and said that the whole timeline got sped up because of what Colorado did. So,
Colorado moving to the Big 12, not
Was
Colorado
Big
could
12.
have potentially going to the Big 10.
No, it's what he
Don't
said
read
because what
that to the
Colorado
Big
did.
10.
Now that doesn't
No.
necessarily mean they're going to the Big 10,
All
but
right, this is a silly
So
argument. It
Colorado
doesn't matter.
obviously
It doesn't
declined.
now
matter.
see
They
the
took an
point goes
invite
back to see you
and,
just
went to the
deflected
Big
because you
12.
said
Is
no
that what
one
you
saw it.
said?
I said now it's saying
No, I'm telling you, you're looping that in with other things at the exact same time. You didn't say that in isolation was the one thing you were calling out. You
the
also
reason why
put it
I
in
said I
there,
liked Colorado to the Big 10 is because they are geographically nimble. They could
and
go
that had
into
nothing
one
to
of
do
two
with
different
Prime.
divisions. And on top of that, I said plus Prime is a pull. Now I didn't know how much, but that was absolutely part of it.
Okay,
It
all
doesn't
right.
matter at this point in time.
You know what's in your head. I can't tell you what's in your head.
Yeah,
So
and I didn't mean it to
that-
become an argument. I just wanted to go to
that's-
David and be like,
I just want to do stuff in context. I don't like taking stuff,
by the
cherry
point out,
pick it and throw
I
it in and say
think-
this is it.
by me pointing out saying I think that the networks also knew that this was going to be a story that they were going to push no matter where Colorado was.
Maybe
Because I think that the value was there to look at by people who were looking at for it.
if it was that valuable, the Pac-12 would still be around.
No, that has nothing to do with why the
It
Pac
does.
is valuable.
If it was so valuable, if
No,
what you're saying
because-
is true, wait a
because
second. If what
here's-
you're saying is true, hang on, let me finish.
Okay, all right.
If what you're saying is true, everybody saw that Prime was going to be the determiner for these type of ratings. The Pac-12 would still be around because every TV person would want to be part of Colorado right now. That's why I say that.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 would be around if what you're saying was the thing driving it, which is Prime being
The
out
reason-
there, being
No,
the
okay.
the
Can I respond to
hog
that
bearer.
now? Yeah, I get
Yeah,
that.
go ahead.
Here's the thing. The reason why the PAC's not around is a much more long-term situation than this. The PAC, for long-term, has gotten lower ratings for its conference games than what its teams were getting in out-of-conference games going out east. It's not a good, efficient use of those brands. That's why no one wanted to pay them, and they thought that they were worth $50 million, and they weren't, and they didn't want to face that. So to me, this is more about bringing those brands. Like, I'm sorry, Dion is kind of a flash in the pan. Colorado is going to have increased value because of that long term, 100%. But it is not something that you make long term choices on. But I think in the short term, they saw this is going to be big, but it's not like it's not a long term final solution type of pick. So I liked Colorado because their geographical position allows them to be part of multiple division possibilities for the Big Ten. That's all.
And what we were talking about was Prime. I didn't care about the rest of it.
But part of my talking points was that is like I think that Prime is going to be a story, but I had no idea it was going to be this big.
Yeah.
Nobody
And
did. If they did, the Pac-12 would be around.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Part
once
of the
again,
Prime
I don't think
effect-
he saves it, even if GK is
If they
saying
knew
that.
these numbers were going to be there, ESPN would have given them a minimum bid, 18 million.
I think that ESPN thinks that his numbers will be even bigger in the Big 12.
That might be true too, but
So-
you had other schools that were in there. Oregon and Washington was still in that conference, so you
Yeah,
still had
but
major value.
You still have the pack effect, which is a negative downer on any
All I'm saying is,
viewership at all.
if the Big Ten wanted them, they would have them. That's all I'm saying.
But the vibes, they're so good, I think, between Brett Yormark and Coach Prime. I'm looking forward to see what what he's got cooking up. Because he knows how to promote. So I think that I don't know. I don't understand like how the Big Ten gets so much more $1 million than everybody else.
Viewership.
Yeah, but it's like I guess a lot more people in Indiana and Iowa and Maryland and Rutgers, they just watch.
It's viewership and good
yeah.
business. The Big Ten network is by far the most profitable conference network, and they're really making a lot of money from the Big Ten network. But yeah, they have the biggest fan bases. The SEC has the most passionate fans.
Yeah,
but the Big Ten has more of them.
Yeah, they care as much. They're just not as like rah cheery as the SEC.
Yeah,
but there's just as many of them, if not more. And yeah, personally, I think Prime wanted Texas. I think that I think if Prime's deciding, he'd actually rather have the Big 12 than anywhere else because you get more in Texas. So
yes,
I think that he pushed Colorado to the Big 12. My opinion, take it for what it is.
Oh, I believe that's true.
Yeah.
I think that
you're
he had
right.
more say than that
Yeah.
than anyone will ever admit, including
Oh,
the AD. Because when he got asked that, he just kind of
Yeah.
snickered a little bit, like, "Well, you know, we look at a lot of different things, but
Yeah, no.
I mean, it was pretty clear. Prime had
whatever
big
he
say in
wants,
this.
he gets
Yeah,
here at
and he wants
Colorado.
Texas.
And
He's
I
a
think that
Dallas guy.
happened. And I think that happened early on.
Oh yeah,
I don't think that
100%.
happened in July.
It was done and
Yeah.
determined.
Yeah, they
and-
probably
and-
did that last fall, and he made his opinion known. They just needed to find a way to see if they really were wanting to move or not, and that took some
and
time.
you started to see the messaging from some of the Pac-12 apologists, Canzano and Wilner and Stuart Mandel, when Colorado was likely leaving, and there were some signals. And this is a couple months before it actually happened. They started to float things like, well, Colorado's going to leave. They're the worst football team. We'll just put in
Right.
San Diego
Everything
State
changed.
and plug and play.
Yeah.
That's a great market. We're back in Southern California, and that's an up. A lot of people are saying that's an upgrade. I sent out this tweet thread comparing San Diego State and Colorado, and even without Prime, Colorado's a much more established brand, a better market, more.
It wasn't
you know,
even an argument, Jeff.
yeah,
Those people are
But what's
idiots.
funny, you said that I believe that there was a Coach Prime effect, and I brought it up in that thread and said, hey, look at Kleofkoff even said this, and I agree with it. And it was all these Pac-12 fans just jumping down my throat saying, oh, that's he's worthless, we don't need him, But it was interesting to see, and you've seen it from Wild Ute on this show right here. He's jealous. He's very jealous.
He's not happy about the coverage they're getting at all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
he
I
thinks
get
it's
it.
outsized, and if he was here tonight, and he had a work conflict, so he couldn't be here tonight.
Bummer.
He would have really enjoyed me and Immaculate going back and forth then, because he likes watching. So I'm gonna have to text him after this is over. Go watch at 1 hour and 15 minutes to 1 hour and 20 minutes. Me and Immaculate go at it. But the thing that we're all talking about, and the one commonality is that regardless of what anybody thought and what everybody guessed and what might have been planned and other things, whatever that is, all those expectations are blown out of the water by what's actually happened.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think is probably the biggest part of the story. It's not the how we got here, is now where does it go and how long does it go for? I think Immaculate's point is spot on. I don't know that his health might drive his final destination decision.
He is still in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
That is very clear.
I think next year is for sure. The third year, he'll probably still be there. But I think they have to face the reality of if he's not going to stick around much longer than that, then maybe he shouldn't stick around, because I got to tell you guys have a gem in that offensive coordinator. People were looking at him at Kent State. People were looking hard at him. He's on lists right now for all of these openings.
But is it his offense or is it Shedur's smart?
It's his.
Because Shedur is really smart.
Well, what this guy does is he builds an offense based around the people he has. That's what he's really good at. And so it's Shedur's offense made by him. Yeah. It's for Shedur, it's for their guys, but he's really good at that. And if you're looking at him possibly going somewhere else, I think at that point in time you got to say, hey, look, here's the plan for you to take over, because that's the guy you want. He's solid.
Do you think they can hang on to him if he's that good?
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Coordinators go all the time.
You're never going to get an opportunity like this ever again to go on with what Dion builds for you. Like there's a lot of talk about you don't want to follow in someone else's footsteps. Well, when it's Dion's footsteps, yeah, you do.
So you're gonna offer him $5 million a year to be a coordinator?
Well, when you're gonna have $1,000 tickets and more, I mean, sure, why not? If he's the man who's
$100 million,
because next year, look, Dion's master class, as I put it, on the transfer. First year was about quantity. The second year is about quality. Just wait till you see the seniors that he brings in next year to fill these spots that he wants. Guys that want to go their last year. Think of her like a Russell Wilson going to Wisconsin, stuff like that. But at all the positions who want to go that last year to make a run, they're going to be in the Big 12. People are going to, if things are like they is now and Texas and Oklahoma are gone, people are going to look at that and say Colorado's going to run through that conference and go straight to the CFP based upon what he does for their second-year plan. So I'd say that's why I say he's there for at least 2 years, and I don't think Shedur's leaving because he's going to want to get that ring. He likes to show off what's on his wrist. He wants to get that ring.
Yeah. I know you can only look into so much, but there was a story posted. I don't know if you've seen it of the Sanders family at the Broncos game on Sunday. And Coach Prime said, no, Shiloh and Shedur, they're not going after this year. They got more work to do. So I think how you guys have laid it out.
Shiloh is
the
This is his
2-year
last
plan.
year.
Right.
Well,
but
he does have
Shiloh's-
next year, but
Does he? Because
yeah,
I thought he was already a graduate.
he
he's
is, but he
older.
has the extra year from
The
he had a
COVID
medical
year.
redshirt and then COVID.
Oh.
Yeah,
The COVID
Oh.
year.
That's
Yeah.
that seals it even further. Than I thought he was gone for sure, and it was just going to be Shador.
yeah. So
Well-
both of them will be there. His daughter's there, but I think this is at least a 2-year plan. I think that this is just me not hearing from sources or anything. This is just me hypothetically, speaking about this. But I think he's got a 2-year commitment from everybody. I think he's got a 2-year commitment from his sons to really see this thing through. And then after that, who knows?
Yeah.
We'll just have to see.
How old is his daughter
She is a sophomore.
in
right
college?
Yes, and she used up her free transfer because she plays basketball. So she
Right.
plays on the basketball team here. So again, I think this whole family affair, they're at least going to see it through next year. And yeah, his daughter could have an effect on him. Obviously wanting to stay put. And then what I'm praying for, just somehow, whether it's, in 2 years or whatever, man, if Shador's staying in Denver, I think that, that helps the whole thing,
get him in there.
long term. So
You're talking about going to the Broncos?
Going to
yes,
pros.
yeah.
The NFL is not like any other league out there. The ability to pick your pick your team is only, there's been like 5 people have been able to do that over the years. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
difficult.
I don't. It's not like the Lakers. It's not like
If he waits
NBA.
another year, he could. I think he's much more assured to be the number 1 pick.
Yes.
And if you're the Denver Broncos at the point in time, I think you go, well, we're not going to throw these games, but
yeah.
It
it's hard to
all-
do
throw
that
these
too.
games.
They also have
Arizona,
to dig
like
out.
this year. Arizona this
Yeah.
year. They're not throwing games, but they kind of want Caleb.
They
Let's
have to
get
dig
through-
out from the Russell Wilson contract at the end of the 2024 season. So it could line up for
Let's
the
get-
conspiracy theories.
Let's get through some of these funny comments that I've marked. So Sergeant Pickle says Waffle House after 10 p.m. is like an episode of Cops. Does that sound right, Jeff? All right, I thought that was good. I tried to grab some classics as we're doing this.
Yeah, these are
Steve
good.
Moser says, I thought he was Leslie Nielsen talking about George Kliavkov impersonator. He was so inept. Okay, I think that's good. Tony Lawson says, BYU versus Kansas is national TV, I think. Is this true? And then there was a post right after that said it was supposed to be on ESPN at 3:30. Is that right?
I'm looking.
Jeff?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's pretty standard. I mean, most games are going to be on ESPN. So some
Okay.
people say national TV, and they think that's over the air network, not
Right.
cable. But that isn't correct. It'll be on ESPN, but it's up against some tough games.
They always
yeah.
are. They
Well,
always
yeah,
are.
I
That's
mean,
the second
it's,
time slot.
Yeah.
yeah.
He'll
I
be
mean-
up against the big, not the Big Noon, but the next one for the Big Ten.
Well,
He'll be
it's
up
Utah,
against the prime
UCLA
SEC.
at the same time, and
Yeah.
there's I don't think it's the Colorado. What time's the Colorado game?
In Oregon, I don't
1:30
know.
Mountain.
Okay, it's early then.
It's what 1:30 Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's up against Colorado, and it's up against Bama.
It is.
Yeah, that's
Bama, Ole Miss. So
that's gonna
there's
get
three
no
ranked
rating.
versus ranked on over the air network. So
That's all right. I'd rather be on a
Yeah,
big
bad.
network than not. So, Jason Spangler, who's a KU guy, by the way, says it's
Mhm.
very difficult to achieve what George Kliavkov did. I think that is exhibited by discussions like me and Immaculate just had that shows you how confusing that whole realignment story was for everybody. Everybody was trying to put a stake in the ground and make declarations, and it didn't work one time.
Nope.
Not one time. Let's see here. I know, Dave, you got to get out of here. You gave me a half hour. I'm just trying to see if there's any other comments that we can see. Summit Hawk, who's one of our KU guys, he says Clownzano, Mandel, and Wilner, the Three Stooges. I think that was actually named by Greg Swaim. And George Kliavkov is Shemp. That's nice. Let's see, is there any other good ones in here before we go? Sergeant Pickle says, gotta hop off and spend time with the family. Have a good night, all, and go Dogs, which is the Huskies. And I think,
I thought-
that's where we'll
I
end
thought
it.
Spangler had a good one to give him on his way
What
out.
did he say?
Said,
What was
he
it?
said, ain't nobody in the Big 12 worried about Colorado, please.
Ooh.
That's some good fighting words right there for you on your way out.
Yeah.
Kansas says we ain't worried about you. Come on in. This is our conference now.
Well, if there's anything that y'all should know about this team now is that, and the fan base, is that we do keep receipts. We will be keeping receipts, but I cannot wait. I cannot wait for next year in the Big 12. I'm really interested to just see kind of how the schedule works out, and I haven't been following it too closely, so I want to hear y'all's opinion on this. How is the scheduling going to work? Are we doing pods? Are we doing rivalries? Heck, are we going to have a larger conference schedule every year? Are we playing 10 games instead of 9 games and just doing 2 non-conference? Because there are a lot of schools that I would like to see CU play, and it sucks that we only get 9 games right now every year.
Does anybody know the answer to that question?
Good question.
Yeah, it's not decided yet. I've seen anytime I've seen people bring up divisions, I've seen people in the know say that there's not going to be just 2 divisions.
No.
Pods, maybe. Protected rivalries, definitely. I think the SEC and the Big Ten are teaching us that, you may have, 2 to 3 protected rivalries. And I think one thing that's going to be important for all the teams is I think they want to play in Texas at least once per year. So there's 4 Texas teams, and I think most teams are going to want to get down there for recruiting reasons, and I think that's going to be an important thing for a lot of schools to get. We'll see how it works out, but
I think that someone came out. I don't remember who, but
you can't be mad at us. You got to be mad at Texas.
I think that they're going to do some type of scheduling like you're seeing with the Big Ten. Like they're going to do more of like just a rivalries, and they don't really know what the final situation is going to be. I mean, with this Washington State, Oregon State thing going on, they'd have to come in the same year. So trying to decide something right now might be a bit presumptuous on what you're going to actually have to put together for next year.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sorry I joined late, but what is the temperature with Oregon State and Washington State? Is that now kind of gaining some steam for them coming into the conference as well?
It's not new. So you're hearing about it. It's being brought up again by people who never caught on when we talked about it months ago. But the idea is that because of the legal ramifications that are going on with the conference and the conference breaking up, and you have people that say they're part of the conference and other schools saying they're not part of the conference, that once that legal dispute is settled, whichever way it is, that will really determine the location for those 2 schools. I believe it's going to be the Big 12. Immaculate and Jeff might think something else, but I think they deserve to be in a power conference. I think that power conference should be 4 and not 5. So why create another sub-conference that may or may not qualify as a power? There's so many complexities to that. But if they win that lawsuit and they get the assets of the Pac-12, I think they use that to leverage their buy-in to the.
That's good. I think they should get those assets.
Oh, you do? Being a Colorado guy, you think so?
Yeah, because we left them.
Right.
Like they should. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that the size of the war chest is going to maybe determine where they go.
Right.
If it's massive and they're willing to share a lot of that to get in, then maybe. You've heard from me that they don't really match up on the fan base size, the sort of the brands and such. I agree. They have amazing fans. They've got great football products right now. Historically, haven't really been there, but they've got something to offer, and I wouldn't shoot it down out of hand. I still think it's unlikely though.
Okay.
Immaculate.
I think the court proceedings for the restraining order are the last legal proceedings we'll actually see in this, and the rest will be settled. The rest of it's going to take too long. Those 2 schools don't have the time for it in terms of their scheduling, and the rest of the FBS, the CFP, doesn't have the time for this either. They need to be able to figure out their payouts for 2024, and the PAC as a power conference is scheduled for the higher payouts, but they're not going to want that. But they can't change that because Kirk Schultz is on the board. So it's just ugly all around. So I personally think that it has to be settled in some way. And so I think that the Big 12 is the easiest answer. and the Big 12 will parlay that into some type of concessions coming their way. What it will be, I don't know. Yormark will figure that out. That's his job.
And he'll do it. He'll do a good job.
All right, well, let's sign this thing out. Let's wrap this up. We're about 2 hours. It's where I like to be. David, why don't you tell everybody where to find you? Let me take this note off here so everybody can see your contact info. All right, go ahead.
Man, again, thank you for having me on. Y'all are so kind. I love talking with you. But yeah, if you wanna talk Buffs, if you wanna just enjoy the ride, enjoy the show, all from a local guy here in his bedroom, I'm the channel for you. So David Talks Buffs. I mean, I'm talking every day with somebody. I'm publishing my own videos, so I do watch-alongs, I do post games, all sorts of that. You find me on Twitter, X, David Talks Buffs, Twitch, and Spotify. We're on Spotify now too. So, like I've been telling people, jump on the train now. We're about to hit 5,000, and then world domination next with the David Talks Buffs channel. So I appreciate it.
I'm still waiting for my invitation. I haven't been on your show.
I'll put you on the list. We'll make it happen. I'm going to
put you on blast right now. Immaculate hasn't been on your show. Jeff hasn't been on your show.
Well, we're just going to come crash your party one day, Dave. We're all just going to show up. Like, hey,
let's do it.
Oh, my gosh. If you're not having fun when you come here, David, you shouldn't come. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I love having fun, and that's why I like being on here. But yes, I will definitely have all of you guys on. That means a lot. You guys want to come on my channel? We'll definitely make it happen.
You're a Buffalo guy.
Yeah. Just as long as I'm not with them too. Just bring me. You can have their own shows.
See, he's been doing this. We've been calling him out on it.
That's actually not true. It's the first time I've ever said that. But anyway.
No, but I had to say that anyways.
All right. Jeff, you want to tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So just a BYU fan, college football fan, little bit of a Bama fan too. I think I showed some of my gear here, even though we're down this week. Just at JJ Fuller 72 is my Twitter handle. I do a lot with data. Love to look at fan base stuff, TV rating stuff, academic stuff. If there's a metric that's related in any way to college football, I'm going to aggregate it. I'm going to compare every team in the nation, whether it's relevant or not. I just love looking at it, and some of it's more relevant than others, but get a lot of fun interactions on my Twitter handle at JJ Fuller 72.
Very good. I just want Summit Hawk put this out there. KU versus BYU is now sold out. Let's go.
Awesome.
I'm glad it's sold out. I guarantee you BYU bought all those tickets off Ticketmaster though.
Probably.
I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of royal and white in Lawrence. I'm just saying.
Won't be able to tell.
I don't know if people know that, but Jeff is famous now.
Well, sure, Jeff's. Tell everybody why you're famous, Jeff.
Famous, if he wants to say.
He had a flag. He was
the flag guy
at the Alabama game 2 weeks ago. He had the whole BYU banner up.
You saw that one single BYU flag. That was Jeff.
That's the 5th time I've done that. Usually, they come to Tuscaloosa most years, and I did it at the Coastal Carolina game when we played there. But
right,
yeah, that's what kind of fan I am, man. I love the Cougs. I'm wearing Bama stuff right now, but you can only have one true love, and that's BYU for me.
That's why it's okay. He's wearing the Alabama stuff here, right? Because he still waves the right flag.
I'm not sure that's okay. Jason Spangler says, Bomber, are you coming to Lawrence? So Summit Hawk offered me a ticket a month ago, and I have done everything I can to come up with the money to do it, and I just couldn't work it out. I would love to be there. I don't have a problem getting the rental car, but the flight's something like $350, $400. And that I just didn't have in the kitty. Now, if somebody wants to super chat me $400, I will take it. And then I will be at the game on Saturday. Other than that, I wish I could, Jason, but Summit was awful nice offering me a ticket, but I just can't swing it. But send me a DM. Now. I've got a Venmo. If you guys want me to come that bad, you can Venmo me some money and send me a DM on Twitter, and we'll do that. Immaculate, what do you want to say to these good people?
Oh, well, I mean, if you're looking for me, I'm on Immaculate View on X. We do a lot of chatting some days, and today was a big one. So, if you're still interested in the realignment stuff, I know we're in football season, and so that takes precedent. But realignment stuff is still going, and we're seeing that today. We had talk about Washington State coming out of there. Dellinger with his talk about what they're looking to do there. So if you're looking to be part of that and kind of see what's going on with someone who's keeping track of that mostly, just look me up on X at Immaculate View.
And everybody else, I really appreciate you being here. We've had a lot of fun, and that's my most important goal, is to just get together with guys that I enjoy spending time with, and this is what we do. So please, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to David Talks Buffs channel. Follow us all on Twitter. Turn on your notifications on Twitter and on YouTube. You'll always get our content. Behind me, I'm displaying people's stuff that they send me stuff. I don't care if it's used, brand new, or whatever. If you have stuff you want to send me, David, you could send me CU stuff if you want it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Send me a DM and I'll give you my address. I would wear the hat for a day, is what I'm saying. Anyway, if you want to send me stuff, I display it. Tonight, I'm doing my Wrexham hat. I don't know if you guys watched that Wrexham show about the soccer team in England. It's a fantastic show. It's on Hulu.
Yeah, it's Deadpool's team.
I got my hat today. So, all right. Other than that, I appreciate everybody being here. Again, appreciate everybody that's been signing up for all of our shows. Please keep doing it. Don't stop. And don't leave yet, David. After we have a little after show. Just stick around for a second, okay?
Fun. Yes, sir.
All right. Everybody else, have a great night and stay out of trouble. See you tomorrow, same time. Peace.